Ladies and gentlemen, weebs and waifus, welcome to KyoWRLD here on YouTube. And I'm your host, with the most, man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, Kyo. And today, we're going to be taking a look at an anime I finished recently called Record of Ragnorok. And more specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the fourth one-on-one battle in the Ragnorok tournament. And that is none other than Hercules versus Jack the Ripper. Now, before we jump into the video, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, guys. It goes a long way towards growing the channel, and it's free to do. And without further ado, let's talk Hercules versus Jack the Ripper. Now, before we dive into the fight itself, let's discuss how we got here in the first place. Now, Record of Ragnarok opens up with gods from all around the world discussing if humanity has earned the right to go on existing. And the main gods that we hear from are Aphrodite, Odin, Loki, Shiva, Ares, and of course the chief god, Zeus. Now, it's determined that humanity is deemed unworthy to go on living because of the numerous atrocities that have occurred under their watch, when suddenly a Valkyrie named Brunhild goads Zeus and the other gods into what is known as a Ragnarok. Now, the Ragnarok is 13 one-on-one fights between gods and humanity, and the first team to 7 wins. It is then up to Brunhilde to handpick 13 fighters to match up against the gods. Now, by the time the fourth fight starts between Hercules and Jack the Ripper, the score is 2-1 gods. Now, of course, the gods field Hercules, the man who ascended to the gods and who was known as the most heroic out of all of them. Meanwhile, the Valkyries enlist the services of Jack the Ripper, who is arguably the greatest mass murderer of all time. In that regard, it is a clear battle between good and evil in this round. The anime does an excellent job in providing the perspective of each combatant when it goes into the backgrounds of each character. Hercules, of course, was once human because he was born an ordinary human being named Alcides, who had the heart of a hero because he didn't back down from bullies and was always there to make sure that he protected his friends. It was his heroism that allowed him to obtain the godly powers of Zeus when he drank the blood of the chief god at the Greek pantheon. As such, he was able to fight Ares to a standstill and was invited by Zeus to become a god himself. As for Jack the Ripper, he is detailed as perhaps the most famous and mysterious mass murderer in history because he was never caught. Since no one knows about Jack the Ripper, his story is very fictionalized but compelling nonetheless. It was shown that he was a happy young child that had the ability to see emotions of other people using his right eye. That was how he was able to sense how people were truly feeling deep down inside. It was through that eye that he sensed what he thought was his mother's love for him. However, things changed when his mother, a prostitute, learned that the man that she loved was about to get married. And we learned that his mother had multiple abortions before him, and the only reason she kept Jack was to have a reminder of Jack's father. But now the father has moved on, and Jack is just a painful reminder of that. So he quickly becomes trash to the mother. Jack was never truly loved by his mom and was truly just a pawn in her sick game. Learning all of this causes Jack to snap and kill his mother out of anger. He also kills his father before going on a murder spree to see people's emotions before they die. So after delving into each character's background, we can see that Hercules represents the heroic part of man, while Jack represented the malice that can be found in the hearts of men. But who won this battle between Hercules and Jack? Early on, it is apparent that Hercules has the advantage in terms of power and durability, because only a divine weapon could damage his body. Trickery and deceit were the weapons Jack needed to utilize to get the upper hand. Jack tells Hercules his divine weapon was a satchel that could produce any kind of divine weapon that he wanted, as long as the weapon was not bigger than the satchel itself. This of course was a lie, and Jack proceeds to attack Hercules with small weapons, all while leading him into a trap. Jack requested the fight take place in London, which is his home turf, and we see him use it to perfection. During the melee, Jack is impaled by a spear from a fence and starts bleeding out heavily. Now Jack is clearly in trouble here. He takes the spear and begins to apply pressure to the wound so he does not bleed to death. Hercules sees the state Jack is in and thinks that this is his last resort. Hercules dodges Jack's desperate attack with the spear and punches him before he prepares to finish him off. But it was in that instant that Jack impales Hercules with his hands with the infamous move now known as Dear God. Turns out, Jack's Volander, which is another term for his divine weapon, was actually his gloves that allowed anything he touched to become a divine weapon. He took a huge gamble on the fact that he used his own blood to kill a god. Hercules died as the entire realm of heaven mourned his loss. Meanwhile, Jack may have won a round for humanity, but at the cost of proving to the gods that humankind can indeed be malicious and despicable. But the score then became 2-2. There are 2 seasons of Record of Ragnarok and 5 total fights, and the fight between Hercules and Jack the Ripper is by far my favorite and the most compelling fight to me. I found myself really getting behind Jack the Ripper. Now don't get me wrong, Hercules was a stand-up guy of course, and even died in grace by hugging his opponent as he passed away. But learning about Jack's background really made me more sympathetic to him. And who knows, if humanity is able to get to 7 wins, this may serve as a modicum of redemption for him. So I'm very excited for the rest of the series, and can't wait to see if humanity can pull off the upset. Now, if you have made it to this point in the video, a huge arigato to you, and if you haven't seen Record of Ragnarok, I would highly recommend you give it a shot. It's not long at all, seeing as there's only 2 seasons, and there's tons of great action for you to enjoy. And if you have seen it already, please let me know down in the comments who's your favorite fighter from the show so far. I'd love to hear from you guys. In the meantime and in between time, sayonara.